Hi guys, so what I want to run through with you is I'm going to share my screen and what I'm going to show you is just some of the costings that typically happen with a gym, and we're going to make a couple of assumptions in it and I'm going to try and go through it as quickly as I can, but the whole idea is to just give you an idea of what the day-to-day running costs look like for a gym, and then hopefully you can kind of figure out your pricing model from there. So I'm going to find it for you here and just share my screen. Now, so what I'm going to run through is essentially what is a cash flow forecast. Okay, so the goal behind this is to let you see what we found in our experience being the costs that you're going to kind of be exposed to, and therefore going to have to manage on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to run through the costs kind of as quickly as I can. These are all the typical things that happen. So you got wages and salaries. Okay, I'm making the assumption that you got two people working for you and they've got a combined salary of 48,000 euros a year. You're going to have some taxation attached to that you're going to have to pay as an employer. Okay, so PRSI, all that kind of stuff. You can talk to your accountant on that, but we put that in as well. Okay, if you have a director, if you're a third person, you can put in a director's salary there. Okay, next you're going to have some staff training. So if you've got a certification, if you're going to do a level 2, if you're going to do John Berardi's Precision Nutrition, anything along those lines, just put it in there. So have the total for the year and then pull it across month to month. Okay, your renting rates, I'm working off the assumption that you're going to spend about 18 grand a year on a premises to your landlord, and then your commercial rates. Okay, insurance, just be really careful on this. Make sure that the insurance you have in place is actually going to cover you for all the eventualities. Okay, so that you don't get a kind of really bad surprise if you buy really cheap insurance and then you find out that you're not actually covered. The next thing then we're going to look at is just your light and heat. Okay, please remember that if you're running heaters or anything like that in the winter, that number can spike quite significantly. So just make sure you've got it sort of factored in for your full year, because January and February could be a little bit different to July and August. Cleaning, okay, cleaning, that encompasses everything. So if buying toilet paper, buying hand soap, if you've got sanitary bins, which you should have, all of that kind of stuff, what's it going to cost you for the year, and then kind of divide it by 12. Repairs and maintenance, okay, stuff in your gym is going to break and you're going to have to get stuff serviced. So as an example, you may have a sign vandalized, you may have a Concept 2 monitor that just stops working, you may have barbells that you need to pull apart, buy some tools to pull them apart, buy a load of grease, all that kind of stuff. So just remember that kind of stuff will happen. As a simple one, painting your entire gym once a year is a pretty good approach to take, so factor that in. Printing, postage, and stationery. Okay, so that includes your headed paper that you may need for invoices. It includes your ink cartridges. It includes your whiteboard markers. It includes all of the stationery that you're going to use in your office. And sometimes that figure can be quite surprising. Okay, advertising and marketing. If you're going to use advertising and marketing, you're going to have a budget for that. You need to put it in there. Telephone. This also includes your internet, so bear in mind you're going to need a pretty fast internet connection, and you're going to be uploading videos and doing that kind of stuff. You also have a landline, okay, and then you probably have 1 to 2 mobile phones, okay. And also bear in mind, if you buy the mobile phone outright, so if you buy a phone for 250 quid on an 18-month contract and it's 60 quid or 50 quid a month from there on, you need to factor that in, the initial cost you spend on buying the phone. Computer costs, okay, so if you buy a laptop, if you break a laptop, if you need a desktop and you need a screen for your check-in software, if you're using Zen Planner or Glowfox or something like that, you got to factor that in. Okay, you're traveling and entertainment, if you do travel and entertain, or you're bringing guests out, or you're doing sponsored events or charity events for members in the gym, you're probably going to spend some money there. Your legal and professional fees, okay, you can group them together if you want, your legal and professional and your accountancy, but please don't underestimate this, okay? You're running a business, you have people coming on and off the premises, you may have staff, so you're going to probably need, at a minimum, a solicitor, you're going to need a HR consultant, you're going to need a bookkeeper, and you may need an accountant, okay? And these guys are not cheap, and you probably don't want to be working with the cheapest guy in town either. Your bank charges, okay, so costs attached to a bounced direct debit, your just simple stuff like you actually lodging money into the account, the bank is going to charge you for all of that, okay? Just make sure you factor it in to your figures. Your gym clothes, do you have branded t-shirts, do you have branded hoodies, do you have something like that, okay? Supplies, another figure, so you might be buying other bits and pieces, batteries for rower screens, remotes, batteries for remotes, replacement remotes, all that kind of stuff. General expenses, okay, you'll be quite surprised that when you start totting up all your invoices where you're spending money in other places, the figure could be quite different for you, but do put something in there so you have a bit of a buffer. Your subscription or your affiliation fee, that's probably worth looking at as well. If you've got if you're using a CrossFit subscription or something like that, you're going to pay them each year, so just have that factored in. If you have a loan, okay, if you have a bank loan, you got to put that in as well. Also, just an aside, if you've put like 15 or 20 grand of your own money into this gym or into this business, that's money that you really need to be factoring in getting back out, okay? It's not a sunk cost. You can't just put it in and bury it, okay? And if you've got a good accountant, they'll be bringing you through that. So do sort of put that loan repayment in, be it to a bank, be it to an investor, or be it to yourself. Okay, the next thing then is VAT payments, okay? I'm working off 15%. It isn't actually 15%, but the way I work it is by the time you have factored everything in and you've got a payment and maybe one that bounced and a few other things, what you're really going to hold on to, we found, is around about 15% less than what you take in straight to the bank, okay? You may have corporation tax, okay, depending on kind of how your company is formed or if you have a company, and then you may have some capital expenditure. And capital expenditure is that kind of front end stuff, so stuff you buy at the very, very start of it, or if you're reinvesting, okay? Where I think this gets really interesting is if we look at that, so we work off the assumption, and you can change all these numbers yourself, but if we work off the assumption that you got 2 people working there, okay, and they're making 2 grand a month, okay, plug in all your other costs. Let's assume you had 3,000 euros in your current account in the bank, okay, and then you sold 10 grand's worth of services, okay, you actually lost money, okay? Now, this figure moves depending on all of these other figures, but the most interesting part I find is just how quickly you end up, if we look here in month 4, having 0 in the bank, okay? So you're now in an overdraft and you're in a very, very, very tough spot. So it's really just something for you guys to kind of have a look at and have a think about, and hopefully you'll find kind of really, really useful. I know when I first started doing this, I really struggled with understanding just how much it cost me to kind of keep the doors open and what I needed to generate month on month just to cover my obligations. You want to try and make sure that you don't get any nasty surprises, like getting a really big VAT bill or something like that and not having enough money in the bank for it. It's the exact same as your own personal finances. You want to make sure that you have a little bit of money put aside and you're not kind of spending more than you're earning. I hope you find it useful. Apologies if it's a bit too long, but there's quite a bit in it. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments below. Thanks.